KP Video News. It's KP Video News, y'all.
That's right. It's KP's Video News. And I hate to say it, but here we go again, folks. Here we go again. And again. This story I'm getting ready to talk about, but first I gotta let you know that this is June 13th, 2020, and basically so far this year there have been 4 black people killed in the United States, and the cops used the same excuse each time. He tried to grab my taser. They just had a black man that just got killed down in Texas about a month ago. And he got pulled over for a traffic violation. They said he was speeding, and the cop used the same excuse. He tried to grab my taser. So this is the new excuse. This is the new excuse that the cops are using to kill black people now. This used to be before the lie was, I thought he had a gun. Now, the new lie that they're telling is, he tried to grab my taser. Pay attention. Pay attention to what's going on here. Okay, here we go with the story. So a black Atlanta man, Rayshard Brooks, dies after police shooting at a Wendy's drive-thru. And a 27-year-old black man was shot by an Atlanta officer during the struggle last night at a Wendy's drive-thru. And he died after surgery at a local hospital. According to the Georgia Bureau of Investigation, one officer was treated for an injury and discharged. Rayshard Brooks had been asleep in his car in a Wendy's drive-thru, causing other customers to drive around the car. The Bureau of Investigation said police were dispatched to the Wendy's around 10:30 p.m. last night and conducted a sobriety test on Brooks, who failed the test, according to the officials. During the arrest, the male suspect resisted and a struggle ensued. The Bureau of Investigation said the officer deployed a taser. Witnesses report that during the struggle, the male subject grabbed and was in possession of the taser. It was also been reported the male subject was shot by an officer in the struggle over the taser. Bureau of Investigation was conducting an independent investigation which will be turned over to the Fulton County District Attorney's Office for review. Fulton County District Attorney Paul Howard said in a statement today that his office had already launched an intense independent investigation of the incident, and that members of his office were on the scene shortly after the shooting. Our thoughts and our sympathies are extended to the family of Rayshard Brooks, as we must not forget that this investigation is centered upon the loss of life, Howard said. Bystander video of Brooks' encounter with the police began to circulate on social media Friday night. And Brooks' death comes amid thousands of protests worldwide against the killing of black people. The mass protests began at the end of May following the death of George Floyd, who was killed in Minneapolis by a police officer who held his knee on Floyd's neck for over almost 9 minutes. Protesters gathered outside Wendy's Friday night and again this morning. Speaking to a group of reporters Saturday, Brooks' cousin, Decatur Red, said, "I don't know how to do this because I never knew I was going to have to do this. I watched this on the internet from the whole George Floyd situation, and this whole thing landed on my doorstep with my little cousin." Red said that he and his 2 sons had seen the video. He said, "This is the most hurtful thing for me is to watch that video, to wake up and watch that video," Red said. In a statement Saturday, the Georgia NAACP called for Atlanta Police Chief Erica Shields and Mayor Keisha Lance Bottom to be held accountable for the continued threat on innocent black lives in their community. Atlanteans woke up to the disturbing videos and reports of Rayshard being killed by the Atlanta Police Department. At this time, we must address the oversaturated police presence in Atlanta's black communities. This is not the first time a black man was killed for sleeping, the organization said in a statement. The city of Atlanta must address this not only with their words, but also with their actions and budgetary decisions. Georgia Democrat Stacey Abrams condemned the shooting on Twitter Saturday morning. The killing of Rayshard Brooks in Atlanta last night demands we severely restrict the use of deadly force. Yes, investigations must be called for, but so too should accountability, Abrams wrote. Sleeping in a drive-thru must not end in death. And other officials in Georgia have also attracted scrutiny in recent months for their handling of the killing of Ahmaud Arbery. In February, 25-year-old Arbery, who was black, was fatally shot by 3 white men while jogging about 2 miles from his home in a neighborhood outside Brunswick, Georgia. It took more than 2 months for murder charges to be charged in the Arbery case. The Atlanta Police Department did not immediately respond to requests for comment. The Fulton County District Attorney's Office was asking anyone with information about the incident to contact the District Attorney's Office. So, it's another life lost. This time the man lost his life because he was in his car sleeping. And, wow. Yeah, I don't know, man. This is a real bad situation. And, wow. I don't know. It's just like they just keep coming. This stuff just keeps on coming. Let's see, what's the next story should I report on? Okay, having did that one, this one here is pretty similar, a pretty similar story. And this happened last year. It said a mother of a black man shot and killed by police outside North Carolina's Burger King files lawsuit 10 months after the officer was cleared of the shooting. The mother of a black man who was fatally shot last year by Charlotte police outside of Burger King in North Carolina filed a lawsuit this past Thursday against the city and the officer involved in the shooting. The lawsuit filed on behalf of Deborah Franklin by attorney Luke Largess alleged Charlotte Mecklenburg Police Department officer Wendy Carey and the city were both responsible for the negligent police training practices that resulted in her son Dakarius Franklin's death. The use of deadly force by the defendant Curl was unreasonable and excessive under the circumstances, the lawsuit said. They were justified, and it was a female cop that shot him. Her unjustified actions displayed willful and wanton disregard of Franklin's rights and well-being and exceeded the scope of her lawful authority, thereby piercing any entitlement to public officer immunity, the suit continued to say. And so it's one of those situations where you had a guy that was basically talking with somebody at a Burger King in Charlotte, and the police showed up, and a lawsuit said Franklin was responding that morning to a new development in an affair the mother of his 3 children was having with one of the Burger King co-workers. Though he confronted the co-worker at the Burger King, the lawsuit never said that he basically did anything to the person physically, and Franklin was following Curl's command, and he was fired. He was shot by the cop. Failure to keep Curl trained in the proper procedures for responding to an incident such as this was warrant manifesting of negligent actions. The CMP released body camera footage of the shooting a month later. Last August, the Mecklenburg County District Attorney's Office released the findings of the investigation and said Curl would not face any criminal charges because it seems unlikely a jury would find that Officer Curl should have had any more certainty about the descendant's intentions. Police department's own review of the case, which determined the shooting was justified, was unanimously criticized by Charlotte Citizens Review Board earlier this year. A preponderance of the evidence in the case demonstrated that the CMPD clearly erred in finding that the fatal shooting of Dakarius Franklin was justified during their review. Carr was approved to return to non-patrol investigative work in November, the station reported. The legal action taken by Franklin's mother Thursday was announced to discussions on police violence, particularly against black Americans, continued across the country and around the world in the nearly 3 weeks have passed since the death of George Floyd. And so it's like these cases, man, a lot of these cases are popping back up. Cases that might have been swept under the rug like a year ago or 2 years ago. These stories are popping back up. They're coming back up. So it's like, okay. And here's another story. I'm going to throw this is going to be the last one on this episode. It says a man charged with impersonating federal officers during Las Vegas protests. A federal criminal complaint filed Wednesday alleges that a man impersonated a federal officer and mixed with law enforcement during May 30th protests in downtown Las Vegas. Zachary Sands is accused of impersonating a federal officer. According to an affidavit from an ATF investigator, Sands identified himself as a Homeland Security officer, a State Department employee, and a Department of Defense contractor. Law enforcement saw him at events often enough that they initially didn't question his presence on May 30th when he showed up at a command post near 8th and Ogden as officers set up a skirmish line during a protest. Sands was equipped with a weapon, body armor, and night vision goggles commonly used by law enforcement, and had various patches and clothing that identified him as an agent, the affidavit said. He drew attention of officers that night when he was on a skirmish line with the rifle. The affidavit states that Las Vegas Metropolitan Police Deputy Chief confronted him. D.C. Seabach immediately saw the tactical hazard of an officer with the slug rifle being at the front of the line in direct contact with violent protesters. D.C. Seabach approached the individual and pulled him off the front line and said specifically, "I don't need you in the front line with an AR-15. At a separate event, officers also took note of an SS Lightning Bolt tattoo Sands had. Sands is married to a Metro officer, and a Metro sergeant has complained about him showing up at his wife's assignments and continuously coming to the police station in attempts to include himself in training. On one occasion, a Metro sergeant who was guest at Sands' house was invited to see his gun collection, which included 2 fully automatic weapons. Further investigation shows Sands was enlisted in the U.S. Marine Corps from January 2011 to April 2016, and he served as a DoD contractor for the U.S. Navy during December 2019. So here you go. This is an actual guy that's married to a cop that keeps showing up, popping up, and inserting himself in the middle of a police line that was out there. The police that were out there with their riot gear or whatever, this guy jumped in line with them. So he's facing federal charges here for impersonating federal officers, and you're going to jail. He's going to jail. So hey, all this, can't make this stuff up, folks. Can't make it up. I'm telling you now, you just can't make it up.
KPVIDEONEWS.
Peace.